This isn't the sort of video that we usually record on this channel, however, I used to enjoy One Piece quite a lot during my youth, and so I feel compelled to talk about it. Give my 2 cents, so to speak. I was rather skeptical when Netflix made the announcement that they were going to film a live-action adaptation. I wasn't the only one, and for a good reason. The memory of the Cowboy Bebop adaptation made by the giant red N was still very fresh in everyone's minds. Needless to say, expectations were pretty low. Still, there was a small glimmer of hope that this will be a once-in-a-blue-moon type of event. After all, we are dealing with the company that made the first season of Stranger Things and Dark, both genuinely good shows. However, this is One Piece that we're talking about. How can you possibly put that to screen in live action? I suppose I better give a small summary of the plot, just to put things into perspective here. The world of One Piece consists of 2 giant oceans that are separated by a stretch of land known as the Red Line. The supreme authority in this world is the world government. Not the most original name, but hey, if it works, why fix it? This particular world government enforces their regime through the Institute of the Marines, a powerful military organization that ensures their control over the major maritime communication routes. To most people, the Marines and the world government are symbols of justice and stability. To those who are not content with living within the imposed frameworks, they're symbols of oppression and tyranny. These discontented people usually divide into 2 groups: the revolutionaries, who want to bring about the end of the world government, and those who are simply content with breaking laws for whatever reason, be it to enrich themselves, gain fame and glory, or just find everything the world has to offer. Those people are generally labeled as pirates. Enter the hero of the story, Monkey D. Luffy, a young pirate wannabe who possesses the power of Stretch Armstrong. He's on a quest to become the king of the pirates by finding the One Piece, the ultimate treasure that was left behind by the legendary pirate Gold Roger. Before he can begin his quest, though, he needs to acquire a ship, assemble a crew, and find out where exactly he needs to go. So yeah, as you can see, our hero's not exactly big on plans. But everything he lacks in strategy, he makes up for with his positive attitude. That gives us the basic setup of the show. Luffy and his merry gang of misfits sail along the most dangerous stretch of the ocean, the Grand Line. Their quest to find the legendary treasure of the legendary pirate takes them across a multitude of different islands, each crazier than the last. They discover incredible locations, make new friends and enemies, and of course, since this is a Japanese manga originally, all of this is accompanied by over-the-top, completely bonkers fight scenes which ignore all laws of physics and plain common sense. Naturally, with such a setting, the number of questions and concerns that everybody had was almost endless. How are they going to bring that giant, vibrant world to life? How are they going to give the main character his stretching abilities? Etc., etc. The answer to most of those questions turned out to be pretty simple. Money! Lots and lots of money! From what I managed to find on the internet, the budget for at least 1 episode of this adaptation was over $17 million, which equates to up to $138 million for the first season. Not the biggest budgets that we've seen, of course, but hey, it's still not a small amount. And, unlike those other projects, on this one the budget does appear to have been spent quite well. The crew in charge of the production design did an amazing job. The number of sets, costumes, accessories, and the CGI that we see on screen, it all speaks for itself. Clearly, when it comes to showing us the world, no expense was spared. Mission accomplished. By the way, those other shows that I mentioned before clearly did not use their budget this well, and that's putting it lightly. Or, as one of my compatriots put it, those were good examples of when 50% of the budget is stolen immediately, 50% of the remaining 50% is siphoned off into the appropriate pockets along the way, and of the remaining 25%, a third gets spent on booze, a third gets spent on dope, and on the remaining third they filmed what they could. How can we possibly know this? Well, it's pretty easy to tell, dear viewer. Remember this. If a show starts bombarding you with extreme close-ups, extremely long, boring conversations about nothing, or entire episodes dedicated to playing hide-and-seek, that is not an artistic decision. They simply ran out of money and are trying to stretch out the runtime somehow. There is nothing like this in One Piece. The script is tight and to the point. Every conversation is informative, every scene is meaningful, constantly supplying us with information about the world or the characters. Once again, mission accomplished. Beautiful. The most amazing thing for me was the fact that there is no propaganda of the so-called awakened here. The fact that the character of Sanji was allowed to remain the badass womanizer that he was in the original speaks volumes on this matter. By all accounts, the man we have to thank for this is the creator of the original manga, Ichiro Oda. All because he was smart enough to retain creative control when he signed over the rights to Netflix, and apparently that allowed him to force the producers to reshoot and rewrite a lot of scenes with which he wasn't happy. All I can say to that is, arigatou gozaimasu, Oda-sensei. The so-called progressive forces definitely lost this battle, but they clearly went down swinging, and even scored a couple of victories, like a couple of completely unnecessary skin tone changes to several characters. My biggest concern, though, is for the future of Captain Alvida. In the live-action adaptation, her catchphrase is,
"Who is the most powerful pirate on the seas?"
While in the anime it was,
"Who is the most beautiful of all on these seas?"
Yeah, basically the whole deal with this character was that she was extremely delusional about her beauty, and everyone who was around her was forced to go along with it, unless they wanted to get their heads bashed in. However, in the later episodes, after eating a devil's fruit, her body undergoes a drastic transformation, turning her into a legitimate rival of the most beautiful woman in the world, the pirate empress Boa Hancock. After that happened, people didn't need the threat of death to praise her beauty, they did it willingly. I was always under the impression that she was Oda-sensei's way of poking fun at a certain social movement in the West. And although this change might appear small, it is concerning. Something tells me that getting a new version of this character, played by a beautiful star of the Brazilian telenovelas, is somewhat low, considering how much the power of that particular movement has grown ever since Oda-sensei published the first chapter of the manga.
God damn it!
Pain is being shared, Walt. Still, hope is something that dies last, as they say. Let's keep it alive a little bit longer. There is something else that I personally found to be a bit of a minus for the show. This probably won't make me many friends online, but I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. And that is the cast and the acting. The range of acting abilities in the show is very broad, from absolutely spectacular to amateur theater levels. Iñaki Godoy, who plays the main character, is a bit of a mixed bag in this regard. In certain scenes, he's simply magnificent.
Are you with me? Mutiny.
And in others, he is not.
Nami isn't some tool to be used. She's a person with wants and dreams of her own.
How do I explain it better? Remember the expression, bring a character to life? Well, that is exactly what happens on a movie screen when all conditions align perfectly and the actor embodies the character so well that the audience doesn't have any doubts that they're watching a real person who acts, talks, and lives in a certain way. In Inyaki's case, sometimes when you watch him, even though he seems to be saying and doing everything correctly, there's just something there that you know he's pretending, and that it's not for real. Unfortunately, there are quite a few instances of that, and not just with Iñaki. It becomes especially apparent when two actors of completely different caliber are on screen.
What the hell is that? I'm here for a sword fight.
I don't hunt rabbits with a cannon.
I'm no rabbit. God, you wanna run, huh?
Hardly.
Stop talking and fight.
Yeah. Although, I have to say, when it comes to Makenyu Maeda, I'm not really sure that the problem is his acting, to be honest. It seems to be more along the lines of something that you can't really learn. You see, there was a reason why Travis Fimmel was hired to play Ragnar Lothbrok in Vikings, and not Joseph Alton or Thomas Brody. It's because Fimmel can truly sell the image of a battle-hardened Viking warrior. He just looks the part. Maeda, on the other hand, well, to be fair to him, whenever the cameraman and the lighting director successfully pull out every single trick in the book they have to help him, he does manage to come off as a bit of a Yakuza type. But whenever the conditions are limiting, he just gives off a vibe of a white-collar worker from Japan. If they ever decide to make a Black Lagoon live action, then he would be a great candidate to play Rock. But honestly, I do not think this was a good role for him. I didn't have such complaints for the rest of the main cast. Taz Skylar, Jacob Romero, and Emily Rude did fantastic jobs and looked very good in their roles. Overall, One Piece was a huge step forward in terms of quality for live-action adaptations by Netflix. I sincerely hope they make the appropriate conclusions. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like and comment. If you didn't like it, feel free to dislike and also comment. Check out some of our other videos and consider subscribing. Всего хорошего вам, дорогие товарищи!